Hi everybody, my name is Dusty and I'm going to be hanging out playing Nintendo again, this time with Defender 2 on NES. And this is like my second part for Millipede, this game in Joust. I wanted to go ahead and play this one before I played Joust because honestly, I don't care as much for it. It's not a bad game, it's definitely not. I like Defender. I think I would just rather play Defender on an Atari console or maybe ColecoVision. My first console, I might have mentioned that the first console I ever played was the ColecoVision, so I would really like to try Defender on that one day. Anyway, this is a fine port. It's definitely has the look and it has the speed of the arcade machine. Um, I think it's better than the Atari 2600 port of Defender 1. Uh, Not really Defender 2. I think that Atari 2600 Defender 2 is honestly better. They're pretty comparable. This still looks better. It still sounds better. Although I will say I have an appreciation for the Atari 2600 sound. It just has a really loud arcade machine sound of the early 80s and or late 70s, early 80s, where everything just kind of sounded like a Magnum shot. And this game has a little bit of that sound, but it's different. It's hard to describe. So you might be, if you've never heard this game before, but you've played Punch Out, you might be thinking, oh, this game of Defender's got Punch Out sounds. But really, it's the other way around. Punch Out has Defender 2 on Famicom sounds, or rather, I think they called it Stargate, which is the original title of this, even though it's clearly Defender. This is clearly not a different game at all. Um, I actually think it's odd to consider this a sequel to Defender. To me, this is just a port of Defender on NES. The mechanics are a little bit different. Instead of, oh, come on, I don't know how I didn't dodge that. I guess I wasn't paying attention. I moved slightly down. I need to move a little further down. I don't know how I didn't die there, so I guess it balances itself out. Um, I think I was about to talk about the warp gates. Like that's one of the differences between Defender and Defender 2. In Defender, you have a button where you can warp, and in this, they just have the warp gates. They kind of function the same sort of way. I always found that if you use the warp button in the other Defender games, you always ended up warping right into an enemy. And in this game, that can just happen. You could just warp, an enemy could warp right into you, um, which is one of the things about the game that I'm not a big fan of. So right there, you might have noticed that I kept shooting at it, but I wasn't killing it because its shots will cancel my own shots, which is kind of cool in a way, but it's also kind of frustrating. But that saucer enemy is telling me that I've spent too much time on the wave, and I need to try to get out. So it's kind of like Dr. Otto or Dr. Otto. Is it Mr. Otto? I don't know. It might just be Otto in Berserk. The smiley face, he shows up when you spent too much time on a stage. So that saucer is kind of like Otto in Berserk. Dr. Otto is actually an Ernest movie or a Jim Varney movie uh, that I used to always want to watch. I never have actually seen the whole thing. It's an odd thing to have come up during the conversation on this video. I have that on VHS, but my VHS copy is really, really bad. So I tried to watch it, and it was so messed up, I turned it off. Um, but I find it streaming on things a lot. So if you like Jim Varney, and I love Jim Varney, I'll have to do some videos on Jim Varney. Um, but if you like Jim Varney, check out Dr. Otto. It's so weird. Um, I'm gonna have to put that in my review. I'm gonna talk about Dr. Otto just out of nowhere and make it like it's part of Defender's universe. These enemies, they're actually Dr. Otto. They're his army, and they're helping him construct the Gloom Beam. Um, and they need humans to make the Gloom Beam. That's why they're here to abduct them. They need gray matter. So I totally accidentally went into that warp gate, and it just takes you to a different section of the stage, which clearly is more difficult than the section I was in. This is one of the reasons I never go in there in one of those. I think it always takes you to trouble. You could conceivably use it to get out of trouble. Wow, I almost died there, just sitting there. Enemy warped right on top of me. I somehow managed to get away. So in the arcade game, if a human drops and they don't really fall that far, then they're okay. But in this game, no matter how far they fall, they die when they hit the ground. The mountains don't offer any height; they're just for looks in this game. So you don't have to set them down; you just have to pick them up with your ship. And of course, don't shoot them like I just did. So see, as soon as I grab it, I get the points. I don't have to set them down. I don't know how I feel about that. I kind of feel like anything that this game can give you to make it a little easier is good. And I think that's a little easier, that you don't have to drop them off. I could be wrong, but I seem to recall that the enemies could shoot the human off the bottom of your ship in some other ports I've played, which seems particularly cruel. I'm glad that that's not in this one. If I'm even remembering that right, that might be something it's just in my head. But this game is incredibly fun, just blasting the enemies. That's a lot of fun. And I think that's honestly the most appealing part of this game, and why there's so many ports of it, and what made it popular is just it's a lot of fun side scrolling. I don't think there were very many games at the time that side scrolled at all. And those that did, you were not in control of the scrolling. So it's super cool that you can decide which direction you're going to fly. I think that that Vanguard is a better side-scrolling shooter at the time. But honestly, I mean, it's just like a scroller that you're not in control of the scrolling, and it's definitely a different experience. I think this is as a concept, Defender is far superior to Vanguard, but I have more fun playing Vanguard. I wish there was a Vanguard on NES. That would be cool. It would probably be more arcade accurate, and to me, not as fun. I have to admit that a lot of these games, especially things like Defender, I would rather play on the home consoles than in the arcade. I feel like a lot of the arcade games, their control scheme is complicated, and it takes away from playing the game and being able to play the game a longer period of time. And I think that's why my favorite arcade machines of this era is things like Galaga. Because Galaga is just a plain old joystick, one button, and the only directions you go are left and right. That's perfect. It's not complicated. It's just, and I don't think there's anybody in the world that either doesn't like Galaga or couldn't just start playing Galaga and do well at Galaga. I mean, it's the perfect arcade game. Miss Pac-Man is another perfect arcade game, and that's why you see those together in one machine so much, or you used to. I don't see them much anymore, but you still do see them once in a while. I think I went to a Pizza Hut not long ago that actually had one, and I thought that was perfect. I was like, yeah, that's exactly what you need right here in Pizza Hut. You need Miss Pac-Man and Galaga. If you can't have just one of them, why not have them both? I just unlocked a memory. I don't know if you guys know, or anybody that's listening to this. I know I don't have hardly any viewers, but those of you that I do have, I appreciate you. If you remember the cocktail cabinets, I don't know if Pizza Hut had them very much. I know they had the upright cabinets, but my Pizza Hut that I used to go to, I believe it was in Okeechobee, Florida. Could have been Tennessee, but I'm pretty sure I'm talking about Okeechobee, Florida. And they had a cocktail cab of Miss Pac-Man, so you could eat your pizza while you played Miss Pac-Man. Like, you could set it right on top of it because it was like a table, and you played Miss Pac-Man while you chowed down. And I was like, this is the height of my existence right now. And luckily I was taken there by people that were not my parents, because I wouldn't have been able to do that if it was my parents. They would have said, eat and then you can play games later. You couldn't do them both at the same time. So nobody cared what I did with whoever I was with at the time. So I was able to be like, nom nom and play Miss Pac-Man. So I thought that was great. Super cool. So I'm not shut that human. I got to get through my head that, oh man, that crossfire was cool. I don't feel bad about that. That was a pretty good death. So I played this game a few times before I started recording it and tried to rescue the humans as much as possible, and I found that to be endlessly frustrating. So I changed my play style, um, and I'm just blasting enemies most of the time. If I can get a human saved, great. I'll try to do it. But just blasting the enemies is a lot more fun. I love how they just turn into space dust. I think that's super cool. Um, in other ports of this game, when you get shot, you turn into the biggest conflagration of space dust. But they didn't. You just kind of blow up like the enemies in this one. But it's a minor point. I just remember thinking that was cool when I played it on Atari 5200. I thought it was cool that when you warped, you turned into particles and then reformed. I thought that was neat. See, that was unfair. I don't care what anybody says. That was plain old unfair. I get that I'm spending too much time in the round, but that ship just spawned right in front of me, and that's just not cool. I'm really critical of certain strategies to make a game difficult, and one of my peeves is spawning that can happen right in front of you like that. I don't know anything about programming, so I don't know if there's a way that you can program your game to prevent things like that if you're going to have random spawns. But I just feel like in this game it happens a lot. So I play this kind of. I tried my best to dodge that. It's just like I wasn't moving. All I was doing was making the screen snap back and forth. So I usually don't do a lot of review talk in this type of video, but my personal opinion is I really just don't care for this game. But to be objective about it, this is a fine port of Defender 2, or any Defender for that matter. They're not different enough to consider it to be a different game, in my opinion. This is just a different port of Defender, and this is a fine port. If you like Defender and you don't have an Atari, or you would rather play an old school console version of the game, you can't go wrong with this. It's great. The box art looks beautiful, especially sitting on the shelf with the hard cases that I like to buy. And the sound effects are fun. And it's a fun game. It's just hard. It's punishingly hard. Um, so if you can get past that, you're in for a good time. It's just personally not for me. But I think I'm about to die. I got 5 bombs, and I probably should have used one right there. So that's going to be my game, everybody. I think I've had about enough Defender 2 tonight. So join me another time, and we'll talk more and play more. And I appreciate everybody that drops in to visit with me. So hang out with me some other time. I'll see you later. Bye.